Hi, everybody. Welcome to Feel Good Friday. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and we have a very special show for you guys today. I want to send a shout out to our art queen right here at Converge Media, TDUB. Be safe on your travels, TDUB. You know, we miss you here in the studio for Feel Good Friday, but so glad that you're out there. Of course, as always, pounding the pavement, doing your travels. So shout out to you. Also, I just want to give a huge thank you to all of you who have been watching on Fridays with me, rocking with me on Fridays. This has been a phenomenal ride, and I appreciate all the love and support that I get out there from all of you viewers online, but also out there in the community. So thank you guys so much. Later in the show, I get to really kind of dive in with Miss Fern, who's here to tell us a unique story going on. We want to really alert business owners and people that are property owners as to what she has experienced. And this is why it's a unique show, because we want to give some time for that. But also, weeks ago, I was able to interview Dr. J at Washington's Office of Equity, and the work that they're doing kind of really is kind of a solution to the issue that Miss Fern is going to be talking about at the start of the show. So welcome everybody to Feel Good Friday. Want to remind you that right now is a perfect time to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people that you feel could benefit from some Feel Good Friday energy. We appreciate all of the tags and the shares. They really do help us here. So please, if somebody doesn't know about us, if somebody doesn't know about Feel Good Friday, make sure that they know about us. Also, if you are not able to watch the show, you can also listen to it on all of the podcast platforms by searching Converge Media Network. All of our shows are there. So if you're ever just in the kitchen wanting to listen to something cool, you guys can find us on over 200 podcast platforms by searching Converge Media Network. So thank you to all the listeners out there as well, as we've been getting some amazing statistics back about how far reaching Converge Media is globally because of the podcast. So thank you to all of you listeners out there as well. We are going to continue on this message, and particularly right now, here for us, WA.org. Lots of folks I know are getting sick. My sons were a little bit sick. There's a change here, and y'all could probably see it in the air with all of the pollen coming through. So people and their allergies, or they're like, is it allergies? Is it COVID? I'm telling you, it's always worth doing the COVID test just to be sure. So please check out here for us, WA.org. It's culturally relevant communication and content really geared toward the Black community, for those in our community who are hesitant of the vaccine, still have questions around COVID. Even if you did get the vaccine, but you want to hear from other stories or encourage others that who may not, have the vaccine or still are questioning it, check out here for us, WA.org. Shout out to Department of Health for that amazing resource. There's a lot of events happening, and I want to encourage people out there, because now we are on the spring season. We're seeing some amazing spring days out there, and we're going to move right into summer here shortly, right? So I want to just encourage you guys. Remember, we have a calendar submission form on our website. It's at the bottom. If you go to Converge Media, whereweconverge.com, you guys will actually be able to scroll down to the bottom. There is a calendar submission form there for all of your amazing events that are happening. We want to do our part here at Converge and try to shed some light on all the great work that's happening out there in the community. There's a lot of vendor markets going on, a lot of different places to circulate Black dollars, a lot of different spaces to connect with community members. Please make sure you guys are using that calendar submission form so that we know about all of the cool events happening. Of course, on Monday is Memorial Day. And for those of you who came to Malcolm X Legacy Celebration at Jimi Hendrix Park last weekend, you know it was a whole vibe. We're going to continue in that vibe coming up on Monday, the 30th of May. We're going to be having the Black Wall Street event. Now, some of you participated last year when we were celebrating the 100th year of the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, but we're doing it with a positive spin by giving you the opportunity to shop Black and be intentional about where your dollars are going. Looks like we have almost 200 business registered. So shout out to all of those vendors and business owners who will be out there on the block once again, doing it big. So you guys look up Africatown SEA on IG. Of course, that's where all of these events will be listed. But I wanted you guys to know because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be shopping. Of course, we're going to do our community electric slide. I'm telling you, it's going to be a fun time. We really turned up and showed out last year. And this is something that we want to bring to community every single year. We want you guys to know that right here in Seattle, in the Pacific Northwest, we are celebrating the resilience of all of our Black towns from the Roaring 20s by paying homage to the way that they built their communities and they built their cities. We're doing it here. I don't care that the area is gentrified. Trust and believe we will flood the area with these amazing business owners, amazing businesses, services, and products. I'm so elated to be a part of this effort. And shout out to the entire event team, the whole squad who works tirelessly to pull these events together. We're going to have an amazing stage, some great DJs, performers, and speakers, as well as all of the great businesses. And let me tell you guys, there's some fantastic food and some fantastic products at all of these events. I am so inspired and amazed by how well crafted, pieces are, fabric, clothing, soaps and lotions and incense and, bath salts. I mean, you name it, almost anything that you're probably looking for, you can really find here at Black Wall Street. So join us on Monday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to be shutting down the block once again on Jackson. It is phenomenal as we take the block. We want you guys to be there. Meet us at 23rd and Jackson, 1 p.m. on Monday. Make sure you tell your friends, come out, come shop, come laugh, come play, right? Bring the kids. It's a family-friendly event. Thank you to everybody who is really putting forth the effort, and shout out to all the vendors and the performers and speakers who are going to be gracing the stage. Well, that's what I have for this first segment. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, I'm going to be talking to Miss Fern. We're going to hear about her unique story regarding property loss. This is something that we deal with all the time, and yet we're going to put a positive spin on it for Feel Good Friday. You guys stay tuned. After this short break, you're watching Feel Good Friday.
As a non-binary Black femme, a lot of my identity is rooted in body. Once the vaccine was introduced, it was really difficult to think in terms of safety as well as autonomy. As a Black American, the relationship with government is very complicated. It's hard to trust. A lot of these conspiracies are really impacting people making a decision, especially with Black folks, to be clear about what we're doing. I think it's just a well-rounded conversation to see what's best for us.
Everyone's invited to the prom. From the creators of the Book of Mormon, Elf, and The Drowsy Chaperone, The Prom is a musical comedy about big Broadway stars on a mission to change the world and the love they discover that unites them all. The Prom makes you believe in musical comedy again. So full of happiness that you think your heart is about to burst. Everyone deserves a chance to celebrate.
On sale now. Tickets at fifthavenue.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to Feel Good Friday. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and joining me on set right now is Miss Fern Herbert. Welcome.
Thank you, Trae, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you reached out to us through some community contacts. Thank you to those community contacts who saw that we were a great fit to kind of share your story. It's very unique, Miss Fern, and there's probably a lot of background. Tell us a bit about how you got to where you are today. Just give us some of that background story.
Okay. In 2017, I decided I'm an attorney. I'm an attorney at law. My primary area of practice is wills, trust, and probate. And in 2017, this reached out to or was matched with a law firm of retiring attorneys who wanted to sell their practice. So I met them and we put together a deal, and we moved forward towards my purchasing their practice. I we basically had some degree of paperwork done before I actually met them in person. But I actually met them in person right after the eclipse in 2017 when I came into the office and they met me in person. We moved forward and I bought the practice actually on Valentine's Day of 2018. Shortly after I purchased the practice, I noticed that there was a lot of hostility towards me by the staff, and I kept the original staff on because I didn't want to change anything. I wanted the transition to be smooth. And one of the deals of the purchase and sale agreement that we had with the sellers was that the sellers, the two attorneys from whom I bought the practice, would be able to stay on in the office ostensibly to facilitate a smooth transition. But what happened was anything but. It was not at all smooth. And I became aware that there was theft of law firm funds, embezzlement. They kept their accounts open and continued to deposit client checks. The mail was being intercepted by staff, and client funds that were coming in, checks that were coming into the practice that was now mine, some of it was being siphoned off and deposited into their still existing account, which should have been closed. It didn't foster a very positive environment for the practice to grow and flourish. We went on like that. I got a forensic accountant to come into the office, things like that. But eventually, I wasn't able to keep the practice doors open anymore. There was just too much going on. I also noticed that one of the partners, I had cases or files for the female partner, but the male partner, there weren't very many of his files at all. And in fact, an associate said to me, "Where are his files? This is odd. Where are his former clients?" By Thanksgiving of 2019, when I had to close the practice doors, I actually had a talk with him, called him over, and we met for coffee. And I said to him, there was so much that happened that shouldn't have happened. And at this point, he started to confess to me that basically he had never had much contact with people of color growing up. And so when he met me, back in 2017, basically between the moment that he met me and the moment that I bought the practice, he basically divested himself of his files and basically sent it over to a law firm of his friends without disclosure to me or to the bank. So I had gotten an SBA loan, a loan from the Small Business Administration, to finance the purchase. And basically the purchase what I bought was significantly diminished without disclosure to me. And at that point, I was realizing the reason also for the hostility and a lot of the dissonance that I experienced once I got into the office. actually presented me with a host of files, which when I tried to access them, it turned out to many of them are on undeliverable addresses. And so it's been a nightmare, really. The worst part of it was that the SBA requires that you basically make available some kind of collateral when you get a loan from them. And so they required that I sign a deed of trust with my home as a collateral when I got the loan. Of course, it was against my better judgment, but I wanted to, move forward and thinking this would be a good opportunity, and went forward with the SBA loan, and also figuring that the SBA was a reputable, federal agency. And as it turned out, when the practice went under, the SBA, the bank holding the SBA loan, basically started going after my home. I have been very vocal about what happened and that there was fraud involved. And whether there's sympathy or not, there is not sufficient action to really take action against the perpetrators. No one has done that. I have reached out to my Congressman Rick Larson's office. I've reached out to Patty Murray's office. I've reached out to Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General, not just his office, but I wrote a letter detailing all of this to him personally. I did get some response from Patty Murray's office, but it wasn't until 2 weeks ago, which was 2 weeks before the sale of my home, which was today. And eventually they let me know that basically they'd done everything that they could and the SBA wasn't gonna budge. So basically, I have lost my home as a result of a business deal gone bad.
This is when I was reading through some of the initial information that you sent us, I was just blown away that this is how our system works, right? Especially when you have something that is clearly indicative of fraudulent activity. You would think that there would be another recourse, another pathway that you would be able to take to protect yourself from that. The fact that there's no clause in your contract with the SBA to then showcase, this would be null and void if fraudulent activity is involved. Now, obviously, there would be some type of recourse if it was you doing the fraud, but that's where my mind goes. When you think about some of the biggest lessons you've learned from this, because we are talking about another Black homeowner losing their home. And this is something we do not want happening in the community, period. And there's been so much effort. I think about Ruby Holland. I think about Patricia Valentine. So many of our elders in the community have worked together to share tips and tricks to try to make sure that they understand how to do home improvements, how to build equity in their home, how to take out equity to do different projects. There's so much effort and energy that's being done there. As you deal with this, Miss Fern, and you walk away from this whole situation, what are the next steps for you now at this point?
Well, first I have to find housing for myself and my elderly mother, who lives with me. But beyond that, one of the things that I have thought was never want to deal so badly that you go against your own better judgment, because, I protect people's assets. That's what I do. And I know that this deal that I went into with these attorneys could have been structured through something called seller financing, basically where I could have taken over the practice. They could have left if they wanted to, or stayed to assist me. But the financing for the deal, instead of me taking out a loan and going into debt to finance the practice, it could have come from basically me putting in equity into the practice and taking it over, and them getting a piece of that over a period of time. That would have ensured that they would have had a vested interest in the success of my enterprise, as opposed to being, having gotten paid and then being able to cut and run. And that is one of the things that I've looked back on. If I ever have to do this again, I would do it like that. And I would encourage other business owners of any race, but particularly for Black women, to definitely, beware whenever you're going forward with any kind of business deal, and protect yourself. Reach out to trusted friends and confidants. Make sure that you have support. Make sure that people know that you have support within the community.
Yeah, sometimes that can be the deciding factor
Yeah.
and dissuade people from thinking that, oh, we can, here she is showing up by herself. There's nothing, no community for her to rest on, nobody who's going to come after us, so to speak, right? But this is one of those things where, as we think about the energy for Feel Good Friday, I wanted you here because I understand today is that day, that they're selling your home or taking your home. But the fact that you are here willing to share your story so that we really can prevent this from anyone else experiencing what you did is so brave of you. And I thank you so much for doing that, because that is important for our community. If we don't share the ups and the downs, we find ourselves falling through the same cracks. And when I think about something like this and you reaching out to Bob Ferguson, it's unfortunate that he did not give you a response. I wonder if, with you as an attorney, when somebody is dealing with any type of business deal and they are seeing that there's fraudulent activity happening on one end of the deal, how do they get a remedy to that? What is the real solution if it's almost as if, sorry, the SBA is not going to budge. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. What really is the recourse? It's like, now do you have to take them to some type of civil court case? Do you sue them for what they've done?
Well, the recourse really is written in the law. We're just not enforcing it, because there is recourse in the law for fraud. If a contract turns out to have been fraudulent, one of the parties, or misrepresentation, one of the parties came to the table in bad faith, then within the law, that contract should be void. And therefore, they should not have been able to go forward and enforce this and take my home. Or somebody should have at least cared enough to investigate what I've said so that we can get to the bottom of what happened. Where did those files go? Who has them? Who got the benefit of what I bought and paid for? And that has not been done. I have been talking, I've been screaming it to very different people who should care, and no one has done anything.
This is, this is just beyond unfortunate. Now you've got my interest piqued for sure. I don't know what more I can do that you haven't done, but I think, community rallying around this, people understanding this, you putting your story out there is key. There may be some strategies around community engagement with something like this. There may be a way to kind of understand, how SBA can backtrack what they've done thus far based on that law. So, now you got my interest really piqued, Miss Fern, and I'm going to do some additional digging within some folks in community who are experts on these kinds of things, figure out what it looks like from the contract that you have with SBA. So thank you again for coming on to Feel Good Friday and making sure that we can really eradicate this out of our communities, because we are seeing a litany of reasons, pathways, all these different pipelines for people to take our properties. And it's something that we need to protect, particularly around Black home ownership, which is already on a national decline. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I don't know if you have any campaign, any call to action. We may have to create it and then make sure we put that out there, but we will be connected with you. And I really appreciate you sharing.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Wow, what a story there. I mean, you're talking about the resilience of Miss Fern Herbert, who just shared this intimate story of this unfortunate event. But I think that there may be some recourse here in terms of community engagement. We'll keep digging into this and see what we can kind of come up with on the community side, because we also know sometimes it takes some pressure to make things change. And we do that all the time in Black communities. So you guys still see a smile on my face because I'm going, you know what? We're used to this. We're used to having to really press against this system, kind of fight for the things that are right. And it sounds like there is law, there is precedence that we can rest on, which is already half of the battle. So I really appreciate Miss Fern for sharing her story. You guys, after this short break, Miss Dr. J, her pronoun beloved, I love it. She and I got to sit down and talk to one another. She was virtual, but it was amazing time. And we haven't yet aired this interview. So I want you guys to be able to hear what Washington Equity, the Office of Equity of the Washington State, what we're doing here for the state. It's one of a kind office, first in the nation. And Dr. J is on the task around bringing equity into our communities. You guys stay tuned after this short break. You're watching Feel Good Friday.
Everyone's invited to the prom. From the creators of the Book of Mormon, Elf and the Drowsy Chaperone, The Prom is a musical comedy about big Broadway stars on a mission to change the world and the love they discover that unites them all. The Prom makes you believe in musical comedy again. So full of happiness that you think your heart is about to burst. Everyone deserves a chance to celebrate.
On sale now. Tickets at fifthavenue.org.
Hey there, it's Trae Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear. Hi there, everybody. I am so excited because I have the pleasure right now of sitting down with Dr. J of Washington's Office of Equity. Dr. J, welcome.
Good to see you, Queen. You look great.
Oh, you too, always, Miss Divine. And I love one of your pronouns, beloved. So I love it all the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you know, people have been, kind of loosely hearing about this new office at the state of Washington. Before we dive into you and your background, tell us a bit about the Washington Office of Equity. Tell us about that.
Whoo, what a blessing. And what an opportunity. And for some, the journey and the struggle continues. Over 150 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, the Office of Equity was established in April 2020 because the legislature found that as our state's demographic is becoming more and more racially and ethnically diverse, more people from all different backgrounds, ethnicities are coming to the state, so are the inequities that they're facing becoming deep, pervasive, persistent. And as we saw in April 2020 or during COVID, they're deep and they're coming at great economic and social cost. So they decided, you know what? We've got to make sure that everybody has a fair shot at life, education, housing, putting food on the table, diapers on the baby, driving a car. And so they created the Washington State Office of Equity. And our vision is that everyone, each and every person in this state has access to the power, opportunity, and resources they need to flourish and achieve their full potential. And that's what we're going to be about. Equity and justice for all by making sure that we prioritize and distribute resources to those who've been traditionally left out and left behind.
Yeah, this is something that I think when we talk about the language, it's been resonating with so many different people, talking about where resources need to go and how historically they have not been evenly distributed or distributed equitably. So I love that, the governor and others really saw fit to open up this office at the state level. Now, this is a heavy task. I mean, we're talking about the fact that we're still seeing a lot of, protesting signs that mimic the same language that we saw 50 years ago. In terms of the approach, Dr. J, I think your history and your background, it made you uniquely kind of sitting in a pocket here. Tell us about that and what got you to this office and to this role.
Wow, there's a deep question. A lot of prayer, a lot of tears, and a lot of preparation. Quite simply, Queen, I'm blessed. I can't put it any other way. I have grandparents, parents, home, opportunity. My brothers and I are first generation Northerners. I have family roots in Alabama and Georgia. And I came along after the civil rights movement, that first decade, and had the benefits that many have not had. This was a second college graduate in our family, and being at the right place at the right time with family members who love me. And you know what they taught us, right? If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Get an education. No one can ever take an education from you. You got to be twice as good, be considered half as good as white people. I never understood that because I was always good at math. If I had to be twice as good, I was going to be twice as good. But had people who loved me and encouraged me early and fundamentally. Dad always said, no matter what you do, there's going to be consequences in life. So as long as you can look at the person staring back at you in the mirror, then you'll be all right. My background, my bachelor's was in occupational therapy, went to Utica College of Syracuse University. Master's was in public administration, doctorate in urban services. Blessed. Had an opportunity to work at the federal level, started off in the Department of Veterans Affairs in service to our nation's veterans. So if there are any veterans at the sound of my voice, shout out. Worked in the state and nonprofits. And always, though, I think it was my Sunday school teacher, Miss Chambers. She was a lesbian, and at the time that was not common knowledge. And at the time it was not public knowledge, but she loved us, loved me, and taught me that by faith, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and I believed it. And she taught us these are Bible verses we had to memorize. And with God, all things are possible. So as a little girl, I always believed that everything was possible, that we could build the society that I was reading about, in church, and set about my life to do that. It was tough, hard, being the only Black, in those situations coming out of the civil rights movement, yet with love and encouragement and support from everyone every step of the way. And I'm just amazed at the people that were used, that spoke into my life, that always told me that I could do it. And there are those who opened doors and made opportunity for me to be able to do it. And I'm honored now to be in this role, perfectly prepared to be able to open doors for others and begin to create, lead the work that's going to transform and reframe how state government works so that it works for everyone with voice. It's almost like our version of the people, for the people, by the people, because we want to definitely have the people who we serve help us to transform state government to work in a way that makes sense for them.
Yeah, I think that that's so important too in this work is, how do we center community voices? Because really it's community members that are the ones affected by these policies, as well as those that are making the policies. And what we saw kind of in this last legislative session, for Black community, it was like, oh man, we're going to lose Jesse Johnson. We're going to lose KHT. Those are, two state representatives that really represented the Black community in their role. And we see that, okay, for Jesse, there's some things there with family, but particularly in KHT's experience, she really called out the integrity at the state level. What are some of the things that your office is working on to try to ensure that equity is kind of those measures of equity are happening at the state level? And really, it is about transforming policy. What are some of the things you guys are doing in that regard?
Well, first, we're standing up an office from the ground while building an equity strategy from scratch. So we're still becoming a thing while doing work. And so one of the major things that we did was last year we listened to thousands of people across the state to tell us two things. One, if we indeed are going to have a state workforce culture that centers equity, that acknowledges that everybody's not starting at the same place, the playing field is not level, and we need to prioritize and distribute resources to those who've been systematically excluded. Equity. So if we're going to center equity, make sure everybody has what they need to succeed then, and center belonging, where everyone knows your name and they're awful glad you came, in order to sustain workplace diversity. What does that look like? What opportunity gaps need to be bridged? Which inequities and disparities must we eliminate, and how we're going to measure it? They told us. We asked community members, well, if we're really going to be if Washington's going to be an anti-racist state, anti-racist, multicultural state where everyone has the opportunity to flourish and achieve their potential, well, what does that look like? And the same questions. And I'm just delighted to say that we had just brilliant collective brilliance and wisdom with 4 consultants who looked at all of that data and have helped us to be able to push that out in our pro-equity, anti-racist pair plan and playbook. Because what that means is values, mission, vision, strategies for centering community voice. We're going to call it equity impact review. What is it that we need to do in state government now to make sure that equity and justice is embedded in everything we do, from our leadership, our operations, our facilities, our workforce, our data, our strategies, our planning? We call those our pair service lines. How do we embed equity in all operations of agency decision making, centering community voice, sharing power with community to do this? That is what we just are going to roll out. I'm just so excited. The governor had a roundtable with community members sometime last month, March 21st, when he signed our executive order 22-04 to implement our state's pro-equity, anti-racism plan and playbook. In terms of measures, what do we want to measure? The performance, what do we want to achieve? We see basically 3 things listening to thousands of people last year. Number one, they're like, Dr. J, if there's one thing your office could do, we want you to start, can you help us to start really achieving equity in who we hire, so that people who look like them see people who look like them at all levels, especially the highest levels of state government. Number 2, where are we spending our money? Since the advent of I-200, the monies, the contracting opportunities for particularly Black-owned businesses owned by members of the global majority, has dropped to single-digit numbers. Can you help with that? And then many of the community were saying, Dr. J, we can't even access services. People died during COVID because they couldn't speak English. And that was a wake-up call for many. And so our office wants to be able to establish that true north. This is where we want to go. Equity in who we hire, who we do contract with in our service delivery. And by the way, and here is how we transform our public service system to embed equity and justice for all. So we're pretty excited to be able to provide that strategic vision and direction, because fundamentally, as Heather McGee said in her book, The Sum of Us, all of us have a right to nice things. And we want to really pivot off of the I in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and pivot to the B, belonging, and really center the fact that each and every one of us belongs here by virtue of our humanity, and are therefore entitled to a right to have a fair shot at a good life for ourselves and for our children, children, and generations to come. And so our office is going to be working on laying that foundation to make that happen beyond us.
Wow, wow. I mean, I'm just so inspired by this because however long it's taken us to get here, by God, I'm just glad that we are here, right? I mean, this is the work of so many. And I think about, the history of our country and so many who have really put their lives on the line to really get to a place like this. And I've always said this, and you may agree here though. I think Washington State always has an opportunity to lead with regard to the nation. And, this is something that is huge in terms of its undertaking, but you get to a place where you're really actualizing equity in all of the systems at the state level. That right there, I think, is something that is not really being done in other states. What are some of the things that, really excite you about this work? Because clearly, this is not just about providing opportunities to global majority. I love how you just said there, it's about the belonging. It's about the fact that when we change systems, we're not just saying now you get to be included in something that's messed up and that has not historically served you, but we get to change what it looks like. What are some of the things that really resonate with you every day that you go to work that keep you pushing and pressing for this format that you've just laid out for us?
Well, you hit several of them, Queen. The first is that we are the first. Governor Inslee did not have to sign that bill into law. He did not have to do that, and he did, and made investments and declared that we were going to be an anti-racist state, which makes my life very easy, and charged our office with doing those two things. Who you hire, focus on who we hire, focus on contracting and service delivery, added that as well. So that makes it very easy to be the gold standard for the nation, because we're the first office of our type in the nation. And that's what keeps me going, that we really get to co-imagine, co-create, reimagine, build the destiny, the future that we want to take place 100 years from now, where everybody lives in a multicultural, anti-racist nation and have what they need to succeed. And when the children, the elders are telling the story about the children, opening up that book to the chapter about what the people in Washington State did in 2021 and beyond, and say that they're able to get a quality education no matter where they live, that they're able to have the family house being passed down to them through generations, that they're able to have put food on their table. And if one of the elders gets sick, that they're not going to go bankrupt because of what we did today. And when the children ask them 100 years from now, well, what is this racism and misogyny and homophobia and Islamophobia? What's that? The elders will have to say to the children, Google it, or whatever the equivalent is going to be 100 years from now, AI it, whatever, because they will not have any frame of reference for that because of what we get to do right here, right now. That's what gets me up each and every day. Our office was recently asked to lead on a comment letter into the White House on a tool that they want to put out nationwide that is supposed to have equitable outcomes, but they don't have the right equitable measures to get those outcomes. And we were honored to be asked to lead in that, writing that letter for our state into the nation, that who knows might ensure that when that tool is used, people in Flint will have drinkable water, and no one ever again in the United States of America will have to worry about dying from drinking water simply because of the color of their skin. That's what gets me up every day, not to mention the thousands of people I get to meet with and talk with who want to help us do this work, because we're not in it by ourselves. I'm just excited that there are those who are excited that we are here, that we can go ahead and build that future, that beloved community, that more perfect union. And it's not just an elusive dream or vision. this is something we get to do right here, right now. Not leaving a legacy. We are right now living our legacy. That's what excites me each and every day.
I love that, living the legacy. And I think you're really speaking to direct action that not just you, but your team and your office is really taking, as well as those who you just called out that are supporters of this work. I love that. And I think, oftentimes in Black community, we've dealt with performative action. We've talked about the fact that, there's this, a gloss over of what it means to be equitable, right? Or, people are check marking off boxes with regard to equity and inclusion or diversity, that they're doing it in this way that is not really heartfelt and genuine. So I really want to ask about some of those that may not want some of this happening. I mean, we see it out there in Olympia. We just saw it in the last legislative session where, they're now already trying to pull back on some of the amazing police reforms that we passed previously. We're seeing that there's this pushback to some of these equitable measures that, do mean bold steps. It does mean different action. It does mean pivoting away from status quos, but some folks are really comfortable in those status quos. How do you or your office deal with those who are not so excited about the work of this office?
The same way we deal with everyone else. Real, relational, right? And relevant. And it's all about communication. And I'm just blessed with a team of people who get that. And so the conversation is we listen, we listen, and and then connect where we can connect. And typically the connection with those who see the world a little differently than we is, well, so could you help us to understand what is it about equity and justice that you don't like? What is it about liberty and justice for all that you have a problem with? What is it about the unalienable rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness that you disagree with? And that typically leads to a moment of silence, because I call it cognitive dissonance. Whatever bias or frame or story that's going on in their head, they certainly don't see this work aligned with those American precepts. And so when we help them to understand, well, this is exactly what it's about, and we can't get to equity and justice for all until we deal with the impacts of those who've been left out and left behind in this nation. And typically we find some common ground. It's been, and for me, that has been, I think, probably the greatest success that our team has seen, and just in terms of the legislators who saw this work differently, did not vote for the creation of this office. But when I asked them, what one thing would you like to see this office accomplish, once they got past the stories in their head and began to find out why we were here, we were able to identify some common ground. And so we just practice basically what we preach. We operate out of our value of love and operate out of our value of Ubuntu, which is a Bantu word, which means the interconnectedness of humanity. Many might know it as I am because we are, and therefore because we are, I am. And we really believe that in the Office of Equity, and that's how we show up and interact with those who see life a little differently than we, or this work differently than we.
Yeah. That, I every time I get to be in your presence, I'm just so inspired. I think, we're really in a time of transformative change. And I say it's a very specific, unique zeitgeist. There's certain signs of every time. And the signs of this time is a real awakening, right? Not just us being in a digital age or information age, as some people want to kind of attribute it to that, which I think that does have its attributes. And I think it does definitely definitely contribute to where we are. But it's just the fact that we have to take some bold measures. And I think really our state, I'm just so grateful to be in this state where we are taking these measures to a whole nother level. And Dr. J, I just gotta say, your energy, your approach, your compassion, your love really pours out. It really shines through. And if there's anything I can do to be helpful to the office, I'm willing to do that. I want to make sure that folks out there that are listening, that they know how to connect with your office. If they have ideas or other thoughts or want to pour their love and support into the Office of Equity, how does the community contribute to this amazing body of work?
Probably the easiest way. Now, see, I wish I had our other number. So the easiest way would be to call, to email me at karen.johnson@equity.wa.gov. karen.johnson@equity.wa.gov. Or call 360-902-3355. We're not in the office, so I had to figure out which one of these numbers is our number. I think it's 360-902-3355 that you can leave a message and we'll get back to you. Yes, because it's going to take all of us, and we're here to lay that solid foundation that centers equity in all of our laws, policies, programs, rules, practices. Number two, we want to maximize the system that we have and begin to start strengthening relationships across sectors, agencies, so we're working in the same direction to make sure that everyone in the state has a fair shot at life. And the third thing we want to do is to build the system that we need, where we begin to dismantle racism through bold, like you said, transformative, systemic change. So that no matter when we leave this earth, that will go on and to be the trajectory in the state and nation. And we've done some great things here in the state of Washington to tee Governor Inslee up to keep sounding the alarm about what we're doing in Washington state. Did you know, Queen, that if we have any young people who want to go to college, that they can pretty much go to college for free in this state? I didn't know that, but it's on our website. And so check us out. Let's get the word out. Let's work together. Let's leave a legacy and truly, truly experience equity and justice for all in a place where we all belong.
Ashe, in a place where we all
Ashe.
belong. I just really thank you. I know your schedule is so busy. I'm so grateful that we were able to get this down on your schedule. And just thank you so much for, again, for your approach and your compassion, for opening your office up to me here at Converge Media, but also in other hats I wear. I've seen you out there doing the work, so I can at least attest to that. And I know so many of us are done with performative action. So we really appreciate the way that you are taking on this work. It is a huge, huge undertaking. So thank you so much for being a real inspiration to all of us out here, looking to connect with you more and really to see this through so that all of us are living in that justice for all world you speak of. Thank you so much for all of your work, Dr. J.
Thank you. Thank you for elevating and amplifying. Thank you for all
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, you guys. I mean, talk about inspiration. Dr. J right there. You guys heard it. Karen.johnson@equity.wa.gov. You guys, please check out, what they're doing over there at Washington Office of Equity. Amazing work. And I'm sitting over here. I'm inspired. Again, see yourself as a part of the solution. Dr. J and her entire team over there are doing just that. And not only are they seeing themselves as part of the solution, but they're crafting and creating new solutions that are really going to bring the building blocks we need for an equitable world where we're all receive the justice we deserve. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned to this interview with me and Dr. J at the Washington Office of Equity.
In the depths of Belize, the travelers come,
across the waters, harvesting with their hands, learning of resilience rooted deep in the lands, culture thriving like a fire ablaze, sizzling with a pop and a chop, sharing its ways. Knowledge simmers and grinds into the hearts and minds, cutting away from the surface stories and colonial lies, boiling it down, breaking its shell as the truth pours out and gets plated collectively with love, spooned into bowls, feeding the soul. Garifuna, alive and strong at Palmetto Grove. Welcome back, everybody, to Feel Good Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. What an amazing interview I got to do right there with Dr. J. And I'll just say this, we know it was about 26 minutes or so, but we just thought it was important, particularly with that story that Miss Fern Herbert shared with us. We need more and more measures of how to disrupt all of that, how to bring it about. And I think, again, as I said there in that interview, Washington State has the opportunity to lead. And I encourage you guys all there at the end to just see yourself as a part of the solution, because I realize that we all play a part in this. And when we're doing that, we're doing our part. We're doing exactly what we can. Just the other day, another analogy was given to me about how important it is that we stay in our lanes, right? When we have that lane, it's your track. You need to follow it. You need to run that race. Every event is going to be different in your lives, but run that race, run your race. And that's what we're all here to do. So I really appreciate you guys for sticking it out with me today on this Feel Good Friday. Lots of energy right here. Salman and I are going to keep the energy great, right, Salman? No matter what, every single Friday. So we thank you guys for watching. Of course, this weekend, you guys, we talked about it the other day, but I want to mention it again. Northwest Folk Life Festival is happening this weekend from the 27th all the way until the 30th. Make sure you guys are out there. Check it out. Look up their website, Northwest Folk Life. The 51st annual festival is happening starting today. So get out there. There's plenty of opportunity. And as I said earlier in the show, we also will be doing a Black Wall Street event once again. You guys can check us out on Monday. We'll be right out there on Jackson Street, lining the street with a bunch of amazing businesses for you all to come and check out. Also, some great performers and some great speakers. So go ahead and check us out on Monday, 1 to 7. Of course, this weekend, if you guys are staying in and want to catch some of our shows on stream tomorrow night at 10 p.m., of course, we got our fellas over there at Weird at Night. Go ahead and check out the Weird at Night crew. They are always keeping it weird for you on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is nothing more special than the unique nature that they bring to the table with regard to all of their weirdness. They keep it weird for us. I so appreciate all of the team over there. Patrick Galactic, Blaze in Space. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Do you have that, someone? Oh, okay. There it is. This Saturday at 10 p.m. live. You guys can find that right here on Converge Media. So make sure you guys are checking out Weird at Night. Also, Sunday, 8 p.m. Get Truly Unruly with the True Fonts, another amazing show that we get to carry right here on Converge Media. Shout out to the True Fonts for sharing all of the ways that they stay truly unruly. We love their stories. And thank you guys so much again for watching us today and bringing some of your energy to this Feel Good Friday set. Of course, for me, it's always important that you see yourself as a part of the solution. I think I've been saying it. I'm going to continue to say it. I got to keep saying it. I want you guys to know it's important. Of course, as Omari always says, we want you to go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. Until Monday at 11 a.m. Peace.